Alright, now for part 2 of Veigar's story, which is called The True and Ghastly Tale of the Beast of Bolham Tower. Hope you enjoy. Bye. The True and Ghastly Tale of the Beast of Bolham Tower by Amanda Jeffrey. Thunderclouds rolled off the Argent Mountains, promising pyrotechnics but delivering none. From the tower, the advancing mob looked like a child's mismatched toys, all toothpick spears and tiny torches. The figure at the head of the group was tall, with a slash of grey, and a blade belted to her homespun tunic. Veigar watched as the group started battering the outer gates, incensed by his villainous ways, demanding justice for the terrible acts he had wrought. Finally, he hurried down the stairs, the inner door. Through the inner door, there was a mighty crack at the gates, and they gave way. The villagers tumbled into the courtyard. The leader drew her sword and advanced, picking her way between ungainly limbs, waiting for the rest of the group to find their feet and hold the end of the spears in the right direction. Squinting through the gap, Veigar giggled with anticipation. The woman gazed up, and she snapped right at his direction. Veigar clapped a gauntlet over his mouth, but the jig was up. The farmers tripped over themselves to cower behind the leader's skirts. It was perfect. He stepped back, and barely holding his staff steady, with a booming laughter, blasted the door with an explosive ball of purple energy. He strode out to the top of the stone steps as the dust settled. He knew how imposing a figure he must strike, his hat barely clearing the enormous door frame, his iron boots sending up sparks and thunder with each giant step, his big gauntlet enough to crush any fool who might challenge him. Unfortunately, the cowering villagers hadn't looked up yet, and holding an intimidating pose this long was starting to feel forced. He let go of the breath he'd been holding and deflated a little. "The villain!" shouted the leader, eventually brandishing her blade in his direction. The shadow beneath his hat grew as Veigar grinned. He drew himself up as intimidatingly as possible as the villagers beheld him. Then the shouting and the wailing began. Delightfully, someone in the back even fainted. He gathered up his sinister magic, gaining an inky nimbus and causing violent sparks to leap off spear tips and belt buckles. The leader stumbled back as a serpentine gash of the deepest of midnight encircled the villagers and exploded upwards in an ensnaring source of sorcery. "Silence!" Veigar commanded them. He relished every long stride as the steps towards the trapped mob terrorized them. Around them, humming walls of violet stretched between claw-like pillars, forming an eldritch henge. He stopped, barely a sword's length from the leader, glaring at his prisoner through his arcane barrier. "I can see the fear in your heart!" he began with a derisive and humorous snort. "You dare march here to challenge my rule? I, Veigar, who has yoked the magic of the universe to my will? Veigar, the great master of evil, who has defeated countless arcane foes in my quest for greater—" "Curse my fields with rat weevils for 2 seasons, you have!" an especially cloddish-looking farmer cried out, crimson-faced with fury. Veigar blinked, trying to process the interruption. "Cursed you with what?" "And ye turned dollar dame the week before harvest," claimed an outraged tiller, wagging her finger at the increasingly befuddled great master of evil. With that, the banks broke, and the villagers began to make all their grievances heard. Veigar could only catch snippets of the loudest accusations, the majority featuring sour milk and undersized beets. As he shrunk away from the verbal onslaught, the purple barrier flickered and collapsed. But the villagers didn't even notice. They shuffled forward, yelling in his face. He felt the stone barrier of the banister stairs at his back. He was surrounded. He tried feebly to respond, his voice losing depth with every word. But I am! They crowded closer, glaring now eye to eye. Rather than looking up at him, they were looking down. Suddenly, a commanding voice rose over the din. "Stand down, everyone!" "But Marjorex," someone began, before the leader's glare withered their objection. The mob retreated, and Veigar found himself alone with her. She seemed more than twice his height at this point, and radiated confidence. He hated her. "All right, villain," she spat. "You've heard our accusations. Do you plead innocence?" Veigar felt like he had been slapped. He puffed out his chest, feeling a foot taller. "Innocence? Innocence?" He turned and began climbing the stairs, gaining height in the crowd. "You have the audacity to bring your superstitious bellyachings to my door and then insult me, and by asking me if I deny them?" He glared over his shoulder in his direction. I do deny every one of them, but I do not dare to presume to claim innocence. You accuse me of evil doing. I am evil. Since I took this arcane power from its puny owner, I have burned your fields. I have terrorized your warlords, defeating them so thoroughly they swore to never return. He took the last 2 stairs in a great stride. "And I have begun my campaign of terror upon neighboring villainous sorcerers, for none will be permitted to obstruct my path to ultimate magical power!" At this point, the sky crackled. The magical bolts hurtled through the clouds, exploding around the courtyard. Veigar threw his head back and laughed, reveling in the sheer glory of his own evil. These puny mortals would beg for forgiveness in the face of his terrible magnificence. At this point, when they had all stopped for a breath, the villagers were conferring in a huddle, casting appraising glances in his direction. One of them popped their head up. Did you defeat Vixis, the Cruel, the Warlord?" "Of course I did! She failed to exhibit proper deference, and his words trailed off as the group returned to their earnest whisperings. Veigar shifted uncomfortably, straining to hear what they were saying. One by one, the mob nodded to each other and turned to face him. They found him coolly admiring the polished gleam of his gauntlet. The leader, Marjorex, strode to the bottom of the steps, awkwardly half-bowing, and addressed him. "Oh, great and mighty, sorcerer?" "Wizard!" Veigar corrected her. "Mighty wizard. We, the residents of the barely worth bothering the village with the name of Bolham." "That's our village!" someone hopefully interjected. "Yes, our village. Well, you see, we've come to our senses, and do humbly beg the mighty wizard, great It's Veigar! Veigar! Sorry, Veigar. We humbly beg that you spare us and just, keep doing what you're doing." Veigar narrowed his eyes. "What do you mean?" "Well, we'll just go home and you just keep doing your reign of terror thingy. Live and let terrorize, that's what I say." This has to be some kind of trick. And yet, she went on. "Of course, we'd exhibit the proper, deference. Curse your name in your absence, spread tales of your vile rampage. Frank says his cousin down in Groft heard a rumor of an evil sorcerer, if you'd be interested, Destroying them and taking their dread sorceries for my own." Veigar clenched his gauntleted hand, imagining the sweet triumph of crushing an arcane peer in a wizard battle. Marjorex was watching him carefully. Hopefully, Veigar realized. Finally, a long pause. He rolled his eyes and flourished his staff. "You fools! You thought you could trick me, Veigar, the master of evil? Perhaps you hoped I would grant you mercy with a swift and painless end.
friend, well, I regret to inform you that your lives are simply not worth my time.
He laughed, a big booming laugh, to match his renewed stature.
Take yourselves from my sight, insignificant peasants! Return to Bolham, and pray I don't find you worthy of my attention again!
The villagers managed a few half-hearted bows and curtsies before shuffling back toward the damaged archway. Mardarix chanced a quick wink at him, then turned to leave.
Wait!
He thundered. Her hand snapped to the pommel of her sword. With as much indifference as he could muster, Veigar edged his way down the steps once more.
When do you think I could talk to Frank's cousin about that other sorcerer?
And that was the end of part 2, Veigar's story. Hope you enjoyed it. I had a fuck ton of fun doing it. So anyway, like and subscribe if you like the video. I'm going to try to do this like twice a week for each hero or champion. Yeah, and let me know if you have any requests for future champions. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.